Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're going to be looking at the first of the Iron Man 3 movie figures. These also contain the Build-A-Figure parts for the Ironmonger, the comic Ironmonger. This is the Mark 42. At first I didn't really care for this armor, but in the movie I kind of liked it, and the figure I really like it, and it's one of the best movie figures from the Iron Man movies. It's just a really fantastic figure. Is it perfect? No. There are a couple things here and there that I could point out, that I will point out, but by and large, it's a really, really nice figure. He's in a walking pose right now, so he's losing a little bit of height from the bent joints, but he's roughly 6.5 inches tall, so that's pretty good. Just for a quick comparison, that's him with War Machine or Iron Patriot. They're pretty much the exact same height, give or take. It really depends on how you pose them, but there's no noticeable difference. And then a quick comparison against the comic Ironmonger, since he comes with that part. He only comes up to the chest of him, so pretty good size on the Monger in comparison to that. We'll get to that figure separately, and then one last quick comparison. Ultron, Junkie Ultron, about the same height, just because Iron Man has the bent legs. If he's standing straight up, they're almost exactly the same. Alright, so let's talk about this figure. First and foremost, I have one main issue with this thing, and it's not a big deal, but the eyes should not be that color blue. They should be just like the chest, the arc reactor on the chest, which is done really well. It's a very light gradient from light blue to white. It looks really, really nice. The eyes are just solid blue with a black outline, which is done well, but it's not the right color. And I don't paint my pieces that I keep in the collection, so it's going to stay that way, unfortunately. But I think it would look a lot better with white eyes. The rest of the paint is done pretty well. All the little silver parts in there look pretty good. All the different gold parts, and the red's molded plastic, but the gold parts that are painted on top of the red intricately, they look pretty good. There are a couple issues in some spots, of course. Nothing's going to be perfect. There's a smudge there, and there's just a couple issues throughout. Nothing too bad though, and I'm not really going to even worry about it. The red has a nice metallic metal flake inside the plastic. This right here, this means it's shiny, just in case you were wondering. And then the gold is also kind of like a more of a matte metallic paint, so it looks really good. It's a really, really nice figure, and the sculpt is fantastic throughout the entire thing. The only real complaint I have with the sculpt, and it's really not the sculpt's fault so much as it is the movie's, even though I didn't notice it in the movie, is that his legs seem short and skinny compared to the rest of the armor. Now, it's not a huge problem, but depending on how you look at it, at the right angle, sometimes they look small. Of course, from the side they don't, and they're the same length as the Iron Patriot's legs, so, and his don't look small at all. But it's pretty much just the way the boots are just snug fit all the way down. There's no flare anywhere, so they look kind of narrow, but again, that's just being really picky, and it's not really the figure's fault even, so we're not going to worry about that. As far as articulation goes, the head is on a ball disc, so it has the up, goes all the way up, which is really nice. That's awesome. It goes pretty far down as well, and then it's got the ball peg so it can swivel on that, and you can slide it back and forth just a little bit on that ball peg to give it a little extra display ability, posability. And you can give it a little bit of a rock. You might be able to, if you pop it off, if you trim, if you throw it across the room, no, if you trim right around where the ball peg goes, of course you have to be careful so that it actually snaps in place. You can give it even a little extra mobility so that you can cock the head from side to side, but you probably don't need to risk that. It's perfectly posable and looks great, I think. It looks really good. The shoulder pads don't really have a hinge. They're a separate piece and they're kind of soft, so they're not going to get in the way, but they don't have their own hinge. There's a ball hinge in the shoulder, so full range of motion, no problems there. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. There's a wrist swivel and a wrist pivot, so it goes down all the way. And this pad on the hand is a softer piece of plastic, so you can actually bend the hand up and it will just bend with you. The only problem is it's not quite soft enough and it just pushes the hand down. Not so much on this side, but on the repulsor hand, it doesn't ever stay in the repulsor position. It ends up folding back down eventually. So that's not so bad though. The only complaint I have for that though is the repulsor's not painted. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's not too bad, and you can get a decent repulsor blast pose. It's not the best, especially since the hand will eventually push back down, but it's not horrible, so I'm okay with it. Still looks pretty good. Okay, so same articulation on both arms. The torso, the diaphragm joint, similar to the old Iron Man figures, except a little bit better. It goes from side to side really well. Front to back, it goes really far back. Looks good the entire time. Doesn't go so far forward, just a tiny little bit, but it's good enough, and it looks good all the way around. They made the torso finally, the lower part of the torso, they rounded it out a bit. Last time it was really narrow this way. They filled it out. It looks much better. Maybe not last time, but one of the times, at least one of the times, it was pretty skinny. They did a much better job. It looks much more natural now, and the posability on the diaphragm joint is great. He has T-jointed ball hinge hips, which is a big plus in my book. I love the T-joint compared to the Y-joint, so full range of motion there. Thigh swivel, double jointed knees. Again, the knee pad on this one isn't the best design just because of the sleekness of the armor. The way it tucks in down there, it looks really good when it's not bent, but when it is bent, it's kind of ugly. Not a big deal, especially if you only use the bottom joint, but it's just not the best looking joint. But what are you going to do? It is what it is. He's got the new Marvel Legends ankle, so there's a pivot. Doesn't go too far forward, but enough. And then it goes pretty far back, and it has the ankle rocker, which is not my favorite design for the ankle rocker, but it's better than nothing for sure. And how that works is there's a peg that goes into the foot, and since they can't put it perfectly horizontal to let the foot actually rotate or rock perfectly, it rocks at an angle. So you can see how that kind of brings the heel forward. So posing him is a little trickier to make it look natural, but it's definitely better than no ankle rocker at all. So do I recommend this figure? Absolutely. Even if you didn't like the movie, this is still one of the best Iron Man figures we have to date from the movie or otherwise. So it's definitely worth picking up. It's a really good figure. I like it a lot, and I think you will too. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, more custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.